All right, here's the good news. We didn't bomb in the first show, so they're letting us do a second episode of All Ball. Mike Yam Lamar Hurd with you. It was a blast last week. I'm pumped that we get to do this again, and I think logistically there were some concerns that I had, Lamar. You know, you got a busy NBA schedule. You're on the road, down in New Orleans as you're recording this thing. You've been kind of all over the place. Got Milwaukee, we got Detroit. Are you feeling well rested? This is the evening time when we're recording this show.
Yeah, and we were in LA. We were in LA before Milwaukee. So changes some time zones back and forth. I am rested though. I'm ready to go. I'm ready for all ball.
Well, look, I was thinking about you the other day because I know you're in the thick of it, right? I mean, we're in the heart of the NBA season. We're just finishing we just finished the end of the regular season on the NFL side. We are knocking on the door now of postseason football, was just wild to me to think about. But I was thinking about you Sunday Night Football, and I know you're keeping tabs on everything that's happened around the NFL. So you know how big this game was. I mean, this is huge. I mean, and there's a lot of tentacles of this game, and one that I didn't necessarily expect, and immediately I thought of you. I see Chauncey Billups. We're in Detroit. It's Lions, it's Vikings. First seed on the line, home field advantage. We know Detroit won. We'll talk about Sam Darnold and Jared Goff, two Pac-12 guys that you and I got to spend some time around over the years and at least talk about those dudes. But I see Chauncey out there, and I think about, Detroit basketball and royalty, because Chauncey, you can check that box for him.
Yeah, anytime you hear Detroit basketball, don't you think of Chauncey and his team?
Totally do.
Yeah, it was a cool night for him because the Pistons were honoring him that night, and we knew it going into the game. They had all these different things. The pregame, they playing videos of him on the Jumbotron at halftime. Somebody did a painting of Chauncey, like a professional did a full-on painting. It was bobblehead night. They had a Chauncey Billups bobblehead, which was really good because Chauncey had a bobblehead night back when he played with Minnesota, and the bobblehead didn't look quite like him. So, it looked like a relative. And the one that the Pistons had looked a little more like Chauncey Billups. So it was just a really cool night, and it was fun to see him honored. Yeah, have you worked with Chauncey before? I know you've worked with a lot of NBA guys. Have you?
No, not Chauncey specifically, but when I do hear Detroit basketball, it's Chauncey, and not for nothing, Rick Mahorn, because I work with Rick for a long period of time. So there's some, yeah, man, there's like that blue collar toughness factor. I don't know Chauncey certainly from, like, I know Rick, and certainly I know you have a good relationship with him, but yeah, man, a ton of respect for what Chauncey was able to do.
Yeah, it was cool to see Chauncey receive a tremendous amount of love because he gives that to so many people. I'll tell you something really quick. When Chauncey got the job in his first year, he always made an effort to make me and people around us feel comfortable and know that we can go to him, that he's just a normal guy. There's a few guys in our profession who, unless you already knew them ahead of time or they told you what it is they did or what their title was, you'd have no idea because they make an effort to just show that they're just one of us and we're all part of that family. I remember, Yam, we were going to the airport for a road trip. This is Chauncey's first year. And the way that our road trips work, we fly on a team plane and it's a private setting that you go through. There's a gate we have to drive through to get into where the plane is, and you park your car right on the side of the plane, you get in. But before you go through that gate, there's players who, anytime the players are there, we try to let them go first, make sure they can get in. But you kind of get mixed up in the line. And it just so happened, I didn't know what Chauncey's car looked like. It was his first year. And, everybody else I knew, I knew what Damian Lillard's car looked like. I knew what CJ's car looked like. I knew the guys who had been there for a while. But I get up to the gate and there's a car to the right of me, and I can't tell who's in the car. And I had the right of way, so I had every right and reason to go forward. But if I ever get in that situation, then I know, it's one of the main guys or it's the coach. I'm gonna stop and make sure that just to make sure they don't trip about it, but just to make sure. And as I'm going and I'm driving through the gate, I look over and I can see now through the front of the window, that's Chauncey. That's Coach Billups. I just drove in front of him. And some people could take that as a form of disrespect. Like, I don't know him yet. I don't know how he would take that kind of thing. And to me, it was eating me up. So I went, parked my car, did our check-in got on the plane. And the whole time I'm walking to my spot on the plane And I'm thinking, man, I can't believe I just did this. I'll just went in front of the coach and then Chauncey, he comes to the back of our plane. He says hi. He does that all the time. There's a restroom back there he'll use. And before we took off, he came walking back. And I got up and I said, Coach, man, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that. And he looked at me with the kind of this dumbfounded look. And I said, that was me that drove in front of you right before the gate. And he was like, man, what? And he was so disgusted. I'm serious. He was so disgusted that I was carrying that. And he wanted to make sure that I never thought about something like that again. Like he emphasized, don't ever worry about anything like that. I don't care about that. Like, so that's how he is. And he proved it that it was true because later that season, and I'll make this one real quick. We're at Boston. It's either later that season or the following season. We're in Boston. And the Boston Garden, they just redid their arena. So all the arenas, I know how to navigate around them. I know where everything is, rooms I need to get to. With Boston, when they redid their arena, I didn't know where to go. So right before tip-off, I needed to use the restroom. So we do our show open, me and Kevin Calabro, and then I sprint off. I run off. And I'm trying to find the nearest restroom. And I'm asking people, and I see one of our assistant coaches. His name is Mark Tyndall. He's out in the hallway. And I said, Mark, you know where a restroom is? He's like, just go in here. Go use ours. And I'm thinking, wait, what does that mean? Go use ours. Because we're like 10 minutes before tip-off. And if he's saying hours, that means the coaches. I'm not trying to go where the coaches. And he's like, just go in, just go in. And so I'm thinking, if he's telling me to go in, that means I'm not going to run across the coaches. Like there's an interest for me and they're somewhere else. Yam, I open the door. Chauncey is right there in a circle with his coaches, going over their last little. They all stop, look at me. I've never done this before. They're looking at me, and I was like, Mark told me to use the restroom, and Chauncey's like, yeah, go ahead, like that. And so I just went back to use the restroom, and then he never said anything about it. So he truly is like that, where he doesn't feel like he's above. He doesn't feel like he's greater than, and he's always trying to lift people up with him. So for that reason alone, I was just really excited to see the way they honored him in Detroit. And he got to see a great game, which I want to know from you, Mr. NFL Network,
Yeah.
you expecting out of that game? Because it seemed kind of
Not
light.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
not that. I'll tell you, and it's sort of wild the way that game had played out because this really was. I mean, people were talking about this as the best regular season game of the year. Minnesota, the fact that we're talking about a 14-win team as a wild card spot that didn't win the division, Lamar, that's never happened in the history of the NFL. I mean, the Vikings were a team that, candidly, like I just think people were like, hey, it's Sam Darnold, their starting quarterback. Shoes going to fall off, and hey, they're going to struggle. That never happened, and I think that team has got to be sick watching the film. Sam's execution was terrific for most of this year, and the fact that in the biggest game, the moment felt, at least to me, it looked like it was too big, and I think you give a lot of credit to Detroit's defense that looked physical, made him really uncomfortable in this game. But I think the best part about it, because there's a lot of like connections, right? There's a lot of that you can point to in this matchup, the similarities. You know this, man. We spent so many years together at Pac-12 Network, and you get to cover these great athletes, whether it's the NBA guys that you're covering, the NFL guys that I'm covering. Sam Darnold, Rose Bowl MVP. I still remember the post-game show. They're down in some of these matchups, and I'll just never forget. It was the first time I was down on the field. We were making our way from the broadcast booth, the press box, down to the field. And Lamar, like there's certain arenas in the league where you just know, you can feel it, all right? And when you're courtside, like I don't know if this has ever happened to you, because the first time it's ever happened to me, I'm down on the field, and it's so loud in the Rose Bowl, my suit was vibrating because it was that loud. I mean,
Yeah,
it was insane.
Yeah.
Like you almost don't even believe it. And it's like legends all over the field, right? I mean, it was, Ronnie Lott was there. Lynn Swann was there. I think he might have been the AD at the time, if I'm getting my years right. I mean, Leinart was there. I mean, it was like a who's who of SC players. Now, they go on to win. Didn't look like they were going to win. Darnold leads his comeback and great post-game interviews. Clay Helton was there. And I think about his path, right? And it's been a struggle for him in the NFL. And now all of a sudden it's a resurgence. Dude's he's on a one-year deal. Supposed to be the backup for a rookie quarterback, JJ McCarthy, that they drafted. And like,
oh yeah, I forgot about that. So now what's going to happen to the rookie?
They got to figure that one out. Like you can't, I don't know. I mean, Sam's about to get paid. You're going to get paid by someone.
Okay.
And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Jared Goff, right? I mean, this dude leads the Rams to a Super Bowl. We spent time with, Jared over the years and just being on Cal's campus. I remember, sometimes it's like weird. I don't know what I had for dinner last night, but I can like sometimes give you some of these random polls. There's this moment, Sam Darnold's first start in league play was against Oregon. And like, you live up in there. It was a monsoon on and he struggled mightily, and by the way, was balling out. I think that might have been in their 4th game of the year. I think his first game he threw for, like, over 400 yards. I mean, it was sick, the start that he had to as a freshman with Sonny Dykes there. Lamar, the dude struggles so bad, gets replaced in the game, but he said he couldn't grip the ball, and then he gets to the NFL, obviously has success, goes to a Super Bowl, they lose, kind of a cast off and a air quote, throw in a deal with Detroit for Matthew Stafford, and here it is, beloved. I mean, kind of beloved like Chauncey. I mean, it's like that level
Yeah.
of excitement around
Well,
what he's.
that's somewhat similar to Chauncey. His, rookie year did not go well. He got traded in his rookie year, and it took a few stops with Toronto and, Minnesota and
Yeah.
get into Detroit before he became, Mr. Big Shot. So,
Yeah. No,
that
and
gotta
plenty of
move around
those.
and find at home.
It's pretty crazy to see how this thing plays out. Look, there's more to get to. I do wanna touch on something you had said about Chauncey Billups, though, and sort of being a leader of men. We will do that in just a moment, but it's got me thinking about some of the things that we're seeing currently in college basketball, specifically one moment that went viral for all the wrong reasons. We'll do that. It's coming up next on All Ball. All right, welcome back to All Ball. Mike Yam and Lamar Hurd with you. Lamar, college hoops, we're in league play. So sometimes you're going to get a little heated, but when it's teams that like Washington State and Oregon State, they've been playing in the Pac-12, not doing that necessarily this year. You get some crossover over the years, right? Like interleague play, non-conference. Now all of a sudden they're in a league and they're playing well. Washington State at this point off to their best start since Tony Bennett was their head coach. So major kudos to that program figuring it out. But a weird moment. Coach Riley at the end of the game against USF, Chris Gerlofson, he is their head coach. Handshake line. And this was all over social media, Twitter or X, whatever you're calling it, at this point, where it got a little tense here. Now, it didn't go like explode and people dropping F-bombs and it getting physical, but you can clearly tell there was some discomfort after the game is in hand, late bucket gets hit. But just take me through this because you've been on the floor for some of these games. What's the etiquette when you got the game in hand and the clock is ticking and you're just trying to run this thing out?
I have been in games where my team has been the team blowing out the other team. I've been in games where my team has been blown out. In any situation when that occurs, if it's me, I decide to end of the game, last possession, game's already in hand. All right, we'll go ahead and hold the ball. Just because that I'm good with that. If the opponent ever does it, I have no problem with it. Yeah, I used to coach kids
Yeah.
from ages 3rd grade to seniors in high school, and I would tell them the same thing. End of the game, if we got the lead and it's already in hand, then this is what we're gonna decide to do. If they decide to do something different, that's not wrong. And if you don't like it, then do something about it and beat them next time. Not something dirty. You need to go fight them. Be better.
Be better.
You got to become a better player. And then you won't be getting blown out like this. I cannot stand when people get upset about this because, like in this situation, there likely were a few players on the court at the time who maybe don't get a lot of minutes. They got families in the stands watching them on TV, scheduling to get a shot up. Yeah, they work just as hard. Everybody on the team does the same stuff, whether you're a walk on or you're the star player on the team. You train the same, you travel to the same places. So, this is your chance to go out there and play ball. Fans are not paying money to come to the game to watch you hold the ball the last 2 possessions. They want to see more buckets, they want to see another shot. So, this whole thing where the opponent has to be protected because the coach might get mad or the players might get mad in a game. This is a game. This isn't real life. It's a game. So the worst thing that happens is you just lost by 3 or 2 more points than you were going to lose by already. So just because your feelings are hurt, you get upset about it. And this isn't just to this coach. I'll tell you the same thing if I see this in a Blazer game. I would tell you the same thing. If I see it at an Oregon State game, I would tell you the same thing. Because it's just been one of those things that have always bugged me. Just because it might be your standard doesn't mean you can legislate it and make it everybody else's standard. And they're not wrong if they choose not to do it. It's a game, it's competition. If you don't like it, get better.
Did you ever get mad though when a team was trying to score when it was already out of reach?
No, I got motivated. I remember, we got blown out. This is my junior year at Oregon State. We got blown out by, UW, and, it was a team loaded. Nate Robinson, Will Conroy, Brandon Roy, gosh, I don't remember who else they had. Bobby Simmons. They had a team. That was a team that went to the NCAA tournament. I think they were a 1 seed. They were a really good team. And by the end of the game, they were having a really good time and laughing and joking and all that, and my team, we had our own internal issues. See, this is another thing too. These moments will provide you a chance to kind of look inward and ask yourself what's really going on. Because
Sure.
in our situation, we had a team of guys that didn't like each other. So that whole year, we didn't win one game uh, on the road except a non-conference game at Boise State. Had we won like 3 games on the road, we would have been an NCAA tournament team because we only lost 1 game at home. So we knew UW, you're coming back to the house. You're coming back to Gill. And there, we're more like ourselves. And so we ended up beating them by like 15, 17 points or so when they came back home. And so that was the get back. That was the answer. So I never, like, I'll watch people do it. They used to do it against the kids that I would coach, these teams that have been together for years. And I'm coaching this group that maybe just got together. And, youth basketball is the worst. Like the egos in youth basketball and the people who think that it's game 7 of the NBA finals, it's the worst. And so they'll be blowing out these kids. And so in that situation, I will be mad for the sake of the kids that I'm coaching because they're not in any position to really match what we're going against. I mean, I'm talking about some of the top travel teams there is.
Sure.
And they were laughing at no, no, no. At the big levels, when we're talking about real high level basketball, no, no, no. You don't get mad at them. Get mad at yourself, go get better, and then don't let it happen again. That's always been my feeling on it. I think the biggest thing, Am, is the fact that there are people that are watching the game. There's fans.
Yeah.
You as a fan, you want to go to a game and see somebody hold the ball the last 2 possessions?
If it's well, there's as a fan, probably not. As a broadcaster who may or may not need to make a play, I'm like, yo, man, we don't need to stop.
Yeah, just don't foul. Don't foul. You can get the shot up, but don't foul.
That's the only thing that we care about. By the way, you know who used to say that all the time? Don McClain, who obviously he and Ted do the men's basketball podcast. They crush it on that side, Order in the Court. And I think what's fascinating is because Don used to go crazy when we used to watch the games. He'd be like, "Man, like, what are we doing here? Like, no fouls." Would get really upset. And really quick here, I would love to know because you said the home way splits. I never could figure out how one team could be so good at home. Like that would always make sense to me if you got some ballers. But how do you not go and just squeak out a couple of those road games? Because that's not just the team that you just made reference to. You see that a lot in sports.
I think there's a lot of different reasons and it varies. And I know in my specific case with my team, we had guys that hated each other. And at home, it was masked because we just played. We fed off the crowd and, things are kind of going good. On the road, it's everybody against you. Team goes on a run. Their crowd is going crazy. You feel like everything's coming down on you. And there's nobody galvanized in the group in that situation. So it can happen. It happens very easily. And well, I thought when I was in college, and even when you and I covered college together at Pac-12 Network, I thought it was just a college thing. It's an NBA thing too.
Yeah.
It is an NBA thing more than I realized before having a chance to work in the NBA now 9 years.
Well, I'm actually glad that you bring that up because we're doing this show. You're on the road right now. It's the middle of a road trip for the Blazers. There's this burning question I had heard when I was covering the NBA for years from a former player. He used to say this to me that always kind of shocked me, but as I've gotten a little bit older, it makes sense. I'm going to tell you what he said, and I want your answer to that. It's coming up next on All Ball. All right, welcome back to All Ball. Mike Yam and Lamar Hurd with you. So you're on the road. You're in New Orleans right now. You're in the middle of this road trip. You've already been to Detroit. We talked about Chauncey in his return, getting honored there. Also checking out a little NFL football with the Lions moving on, not playing in this wild card weekend because they're a 1 seed. I want to take you back though, or actually take myself back. Maybe the best way to describe it. My
I'll go
first.
with you. I'll go with
Okay.
you.
Yeah. Please. There's room on the train that no one wants to get on sometimes with me. My first TV job, first one ever. I was fortunate enough to get hired by NBA TV. And I've worked, I see some of the guys that I used to work with, which is always just amazing. One of them, and I'm sure you guys cross paths a ton of times as you called games, and actually he works with another Pac-12 Network alum and our good friend Kate Scott, Ala Abdullabi, who played at Duke, used to tell me great stories. Obviously, had some time there in Portland too. So there's at least that connection as well with the Blazers. He told me this, and when I worked with him, I was probably 24-ish, 23-ish when I was at NBA TV, something along those lines. And he said, Mike, road life in the NBA, when you are a professional basketball player, it is a lonely existence. And it never really clicked in my head until I got a little bit older and then started talking to other guys that had the same sort of lifestyle. You're in a hotel right now. And I'm thinking to myself, like, that's gotta be like these are long road trips sometimes for you guys. You could be away from home for a while. Is that accurate? Like, do you feel that?
I don't feel lonely.
Okay.
I'm fine being by myself, but I have a lot I can offer on this topic, but we don't have enough time for me to go as in depth on this topic because just recently, not this road trip we're currently on, but one of our recent road trips, somebody asked our producer, his name is Greg Fonseca, great dude. They asked him, how's the road? And it's on our daily call we do for game days. And he's like, well, I'm ready to get back. I'm pretty much ready to get back whenever we leave. And he was kind of joking. I 1000% really feel that way. Like I'm ready to get back home when our plane is taking off out of Portland. I love being home.
Yeah.
Bethany, my wife, that's my best friend. I love seeing her every day. I just love being home. And when we do get out on the road, it's now I want to make this clear. We have the best accommodations. I appreciate how the NBA, the Trailblazers, how they take care of us with the life on the road. We have the things we need out here, able to see these great cities and have excellent lodging. But it is long. It is a very long season. It does wear on you. It is something that could be lonely for some people, and it all depends on kinda where you're just at in your life. Like, for some people, getting away from home is better. It's better to be on the road for whatever reason it is. People have different interests, different living circumstances. So, it's not like a one size fits all answer to that, but for me, it is a long season, and I appreciate any time I get to be at home, and it makes me wonder, Yam, for you, because I remember at Pac-12 Studio when we worked together,
Oh yeah.
you were in the studio a lot,
Oh
like, all the time. Like, you coulda put that as your address. You coulda had mail.
yes, I know they wouldn't let me leave. I felt like I was chained to the
Yeah.
desk there.
But recently, like, you've been traveling more, so how have you
Yeah,
uh,
it's look, I think there's a lot of similarities to what you're saying because to your point, like the prep doesn't change. If you're calling a Blazers game, whether it's off of a monitor or like you're doing the same amount of work. This year being on the road was tough because of the turnarounds, home life too. Look, Miss Maria was always hard this season, so like that was kind of a difficult thing. And then you go up there, you do the flight, and it's the next day you got a late night and then all of a sudden early morning because you got pregame for the Sunday show, you got Monday Night Football, got a Tuesday show. So it's like just the scheduling is weird, but I gotta tell you, it was an absolute blast. And this, we would do the whole season of Pac-12 Network together, right? In studio. And what was the big treat for us
that's
was
concerning?
100%, man. Like, we would go to that thing, and the days were crazy long because you were doing, like, the pregame before the early sessions and it was awesome. It was amazing. It was wall-to-wall basketball. It was in the moment. We felt like it was the treat to doing the entire season in the studio and then get to talk to the players. I mean, I still think about, the cover, the photo for this show is legitimately
Oh,
I
yeah.
hadn't seen you in, like, a couple weeks, and
Yeah.
it was, like, a real moment of joy. Like, you walked up to the studio, like, that photo, that shot of us, like, that's us
Right, that
on
was
that
day
set.
1 of the first Pac-12 tournament coverage on site.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
like, we had waited years for that to
Mm,
happen,
yeah.
and I still think about some of those interviews, man, whether it was, Matisse Thybulle certainly comes to mind, who he steals the
Later.
record 'cause great call, GP2, and some of the things that he was able to do if we wanna
He
keep it
was a Blazer.
yeah, for a short period of time.
Short-lived.
But there was just so many of those great I mean, God, I remember even going to the tournament when we weren't doing the shows because it was the finals, and you and I were courtside sitting at Jordan Adams hitting a big
In the
3 from
Arizona
deep.
UCLA game.
Yeah, man, like, those were awesome.
Good game, yeah.
No.
Yeah, those were awesome memories, and even that's so different, though, than the NBA schedule. That was 3, 4 days and then go back home.
Yeah.
Stuff right now, we're on one of our shorter road trips, I feel like, and it's 7 or 8 days, and it feels like a shorter trip. Oh,
Yeah. No,
yeah, it's
I'm with you.
and all some of that is part of being with the Blazers being up in the Northwest, like, all of our travel is so far. We don't have a lot of teams close to us like
Please, yeah. Yeah.
like the
Yeah, 100%. You got a lot of cross country, Midwest, the whole thing. The point is, road life, man. It is what you make of it, and at the end of the day, it is definitely a fun job. And I know you and I both love doing it in such a big time way, and we both love doing this show. I heard a rumor that we're going to do on next week, episode number 3. There may or may not be a special treat. If you're checking out the show on Pac-12 Insider, seriously, thank you so much. Share it on social media. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel to make sure that you're getting reminded when we're doing all of these episodes. And of course, you can also listen to it. You can check it out as a podcast as well. Lamar, you're the best, man. Always appreciate you. And we'll do it again next week.